Welcome to this explainer on Virginia Woolf's absolute game changer of a text. Whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, or just someone trying to carve out your own space in the world, today we're going to take a really fascinating narrative journey straight into the economics of creative genius. This is a text that completely revolutionized how we think about literature, history, and the cold, hard material realities that actually make art possible.
So our story kicks off with what was honestly a pretty simple request. Back in the late 1920s, Virginia Woolf was asked to give a lecture on the topic of women in fiction. But, rather than just handing her audience a neat, simple nugget of truth, she completely transformed the prompt into this profound thought experiment. She wove a story to uncover the prejudices and the harsh realities hiding right behind that title. And boom, her central, striking thesis hits us right out of the gate. She completely bypasses all those abstract philosophical debates about the nature of women or the nature of fiction. Instead, she brings it right down to reality. Creative freedom is inextricably linked to material wealth and physical privacy. You simply cannot untangle the mind of an artist from the state of their bank account and the quiet of their environment.
Section 1, A Tale of Two Meals. To ground this whole idea in physical reality, Woolf invites us to take a walk with her through a fictionalized university campus on a gorgeous October day. And she immediately illustrates the massive wealth gap between the men's college, which she calls Oxbridge, and the women's college, Furnham. At Oxbridge, the lunch features soles sunk in a deep dish with a counterpane of white cream, partridges, and just endless wine that lights this subterranean glow of rational intercourse. It's an environment where luxury naturally breeds geniality and confidence. But at Furnham, well, the dinner is plain gravy soup, beef, and prunes, washed down with water. There is absolutely no luxury to light the lamp in the spine there.
And here's where the math really puts things into perspective. While an unending stream of gold and silver had poured into the men's colleges for literally centuries, from kings, nobles, and wealthy merchants, the women's college had practically nothing. It took 60 years of scraping, holding bazaars, and prodigious effort just to raise this meager 30,000-pound fund to establish the college. Just think about that disparity for a second. Our mothers, Woolf reflects, had no wealth to leave us because they were legally barred from earning or even owning money. Section 2. The Looking Glass Vision. So, transitioning from those very different meals, Woolf heads over to the British Museum to find the objective truth about why this massive economic gap even exists. She turns to the sociologists, the professors, and the historians, but she finds a catalog just overwhelmed with countless books written by men about women. Napoleon, Dr. Johnson, Mussolini, all of them with entirely contradictory opinions. But as she sits there sketching an angry, heavy-jawed professor, she realizes something crucial. These books aren't scientific. They are fueled by an underlying, disguised anger. They were written in the red light of emotion, not the white light of truth. And this leads to Woolf's absolutely brilliant psychological theory. She realizes that male anger and their constant assertions of female inferiority actually stem from a profound need to protect their own outsized self-image. For centuries, women have basically served as looking glasses, possessing the magic power of reflecting the figure of man at twice its natural size. It's an illusion that was totally necessary for them to conquer, rule, and generate self-confidence. If women weren't inferior, the mirror would shrink. It's a fascinating and honestly kind of uncomfortable psychological insight, right? I mean, how often do powerful figures today still rely on shrinking others just to magnify themselves? Section 3. The Historical Void. Since she couldn't find the truth in the museum's sociological texts, Woolf turns to the history books to see what ordinary women were actually doing back in the Elizabethan age. And she finds this baffling paradox. Imaginatively, in fiction, woman is of the highest importance. She burns like a beacon in the poetry of Shakespeare and the Greek dramatists. She's heroic, splendid, profound. But in real 15th and 16th century England, practically speaking, she was completely insignificant. She could scarcely spell, and was locked up, beaten, and married off as a child to whomever her parents chose. Section 4. Shakespeare's Sister. To really drive home why a female writer simply couldn't exist in those brutal historical conditions, Woolf conjures up a fictional sister for William Shakespeare. Let's call her Judith. Now, Judith is born with the exact same creative genius and thirst for the world as her brother. But while William gets to go to school and head off to London, Judith is denied an education. When she's beaten by her father for refusing an arranged marriage, she runs away to the London theater. But once she gets there, men literally laugh in her face. An actor-manager mocks her, comparing a woman acting to a poodle dancing. Unable to train in her craft, she becomes entangled with that manager, finds herself with child, and tragically kills herself one winter's night.
And this brings us to the absolute core takeaway of this entire explainer. Intellectual freedom depends directly on material things: health, money, and a room of one's own. Ask yourself, could you really do your best creative work without a quiet space or a stable income? These things were systematically denied to women. A woman born with a great gift in the 16th century would almost certainly have gone crazy or ended her days feared as a half-witch. The stress and the dilemma of her restricted life literally would have killed her.
Section 5. The Common Sitting Room. From here, Woolf traces how the female writer actually managed to slowly evolve out of this oppressive historical void and into the literature we recognize today. We follow a very distinct lineage. First, we have the isolated, angry, noble women of the 17th century writing away in the countryside. Then a massive shift occurs with a middle-class trailblazer who proved a woman could actually make a living writing. And finally, this sets the foundation for the great 19th century novelists who built upon this newfound financial independence. Woolf attributes this immense tectonic shift to Aphra Behn. Forced by sheer circumstance to make a living by her wits, Aphra Behn proved that writing could be a paid profession. Woolf actually considers this turning point more important than the Crusades, simply because money dignifies what is seen as frivolous if it's unpaid for. Aphra Behn paved the way for every single female writer who followed. That financial breakthrough directly sets the stage for the 19th century masters. Woolf's own modern thought experiment, all of it, stands squarely on the shoulders of the women who fought for that initial financial independence. Make no mistake, without Aphra Behn, there is no Jane Austen or Bronte systems. Yet even these 19th century greats faced just massive limitations. I mean, it's actually staggering to think that Jane Austen had no private study. None. She wrote her masterpieces in the common family sitting room, constantly interrupted by servants and visitors, literally hiding her manuscripts under blotting paper the second a door hinge creaked. Because her entire literary training consisted of observing personal relations in a shared room, her genius was naturally channeled into the novel format. Woolf argues that the ultimate ideal for the artist is what she calls an incandescent mind. Think of Shakespeare. It has to be completely free from anger, grievance, and fear. When the mind is truly incandescent, the poetry flows free and unimpeded. But to reach this state of unhindered creation, an artist absolutely requires material independence and the privacy of a room to shut out the world's hostility and indifference. And all of this leaves us with Woolf's highly provocative, extremely forward-looking question. If material conditions dictate creative output, what happens to society and to art when women are exposed to the exact same physical and economic exertions as men? As historic protections and limitations continue to fall away, the entire landscape of what can be achieved changes forever. So think about it. What boundless potential is still waiting to be unlocked, perhaps even within your own room?